remember when my substitute teacher ended up giving me detention, and when I went in there after school, what this teacher ended up doing was extremely illegal. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to another embarrassing but crazy story. Now, today's story all takes place back in my grade 10 year when I was in my biggest playing stage ever. No joke, I was like the #1 player throughout my entire school, and I could easily say my body count was going up like it was no tomorrow. And I remember one day in my grade 10 year when I was entering inside my classroom, I ended up realizing that inside my science class, I realized that my original teacher that usually teaches the class wasn't there. Now, at that moment, I was really confused on why, and I remember looking at one of my friends saying, yo, bro, is the teacher not coming today? Like, what's going on?
I don't know where he is, bro. He's supposed to be here.
And that's when, out of nowhere, when I looked at the door, I ended up hearing a woman's voice saying, okay, class, everyone pull out your textbooks. And that's when I saw the finest woman of the entire land. No joke, this girl was like a 10 out of 10. And it sounds bad that I'm calling her a girl because in reality, she was like in her mid-20s, and she was my substitute teacher. Now, most substitute teachers that I would run into are usually super mid or super ugly, but this teacher was like legendary. It was like pulling a shiny Pokemon card from like the rarest pack. And at that moment, when I saw her walk inside the classroom, I could not stop staring at her. And I think most of my class knew that she was also way too hot to be a teacher. If you guys ever had a hot teacher like this, then comment down below. But going on with the story, I remember when she stood up in front of the classroom, she ended up introducing herself, and that's when she said, so your teacher's a little bit sick, so I'm gonna be here for a couple days. And no joke, no one in the class was complaining. And I don't think there's a reason to complain. This teacher was way too hot. And I remember as days went on of me having my science class, everyone loved it. And it got to the point where rumors set out throughout the entire school that we had a really hot substitute science teacher. Most of my friends actually wanted to enter inside my classroom and sit down, even though they weren't part of my class, just to see this teacher. I gotta say, she was a highlight of the entire school. Even to the point where people started to find her on social media, and it was actually insane. I remember I ended up finding out her social media on Instagram one day, and funny enough, I ended up pressing follow on her account. And she ended up following me back, funny enough, which I found super weird a couple hours later when I was playing Call of Duty. And I remember telling my friends on Xbox, yo, guys, the teacher followed me back. The hot teacher followed me back.
What, bro? No way she did. Why would she follow you back?
Bro, I have no idea, but this is insane. She's so hot.
Baba, don't cream, bro. She's literally our teacher. Don't be such a weirdo.
What do you mean? Like, dude, everyone in the school knows she's hot.
Yeah, but everyone in the school also knows she's the teacher.
Even though my buddy had a point, I gotta say, this teacher, once again, was the highlight, bro. Like, I think she actually motivated me more to go to school, which is really bad. You should go to school anyways. Don't do what I do in these videos, by the way. Like, seriously, just do your own thing. But going on with the story, I remember one day, after a week of our real teacher for our science class ended up still being away, and we had our substitute, I remember I was hanging out with my friends at lunchtime. And I remember as I was walking with my friends, we ended up seeing the teacher walk by. Now, once again, I was a major player back in high school, like I said earlier in this video. So I remember I ended up looking at her and decided to shoot my shot. What does that mean? Well, I ended up yelling down the hallway, yo, teach, real quick. I was thinking, can I like maybe take you out for dinner in the cafeteria? I remember she ends up turning around and she walks up to me and she looks at me with an angry face saying, excuse me, what did you just say, Mr. Bubba? I was wondering if, you know, you wanted to hang out at lunch? And me being super nervous from saying that, I remember my teacher ends up just saying, how about this? Instead of lunchtime, let's hang out after school in detention together. Ooh, is what kids start to say in the hallway after they just saw this whole thing go down. And I was super embarrassed. But at the same time, was I really gonna complain about detention with this teacher? Well, this is where the story starts to get insane. Because I remember when after school finally came around, I ended up heading towards my science classroom for detention. And I remember as I was walking there, my buddy ended up telling me, all right, Bubba, well, I see you on Xbox later, but good luck in detention, bro. I'll be fine. It's the hot teacher. How bad could it be?
I don't know, man. Detention's for usually the crazy people that don't participate in school,
is what he told me. But at the same time, my friend was a total nerd. And, well, I hung out with him because he was really good at video games and still is to this day. But I remember from there, I ended up going inside my science classroom and the craziest thing ended up happening, where I ended up looking around and realizing my science teacher wasn't even there. I remember sitting inside the classroom anyway, and I sat down and just like waited for like 20 minutes. And knowing that she still wasn't there, I ended up giving it an extra 10 more minutes just so I could say I did the average detention amount, which is 30 minutes, by the way, if you guys did not know. And the reason I know this is because I had a lot of detention throughout high school. And basically, I ended up standing up from there. When I stood up, I remember I was about to leave, and then my science teacher finally ends up walking in. And she walks in on me about to leave, and she says, "Oh, I didn't know you were leaving detention. I didn't know you had the rules to do that. Oh, I was waiting for you, but you didn't show up." Well, what if I didn't want to show up? Why are you being so rude? Like, honestly, like, calm down. Excuse me? Are you telling me to calm down? You know what? That earns you another detention for tomorrow. At that moment, I ended up just sitting back down on my desk, and I'm like, bro, I don't get it. Why are you giving me detention? Oh, because you think you can just, like, you know, yell at girls and just say crazy things like that in the hallway. What? I don't do it to everyone. I just did it to you, and it was only the first time I've done that, which is not true, by the way. I've done it many times, which I know it sounds crazy. You gotta understand, in high school, I didn't know any better, but my teacher wasn't having it. The next day, I ended up doing the same exact thing, though. I ended up going inside detention, and even right before I walked in, my buddy once again says, "Baba, I kind of find it weird how you're always going to detention. Like, what'd you do this time?" Bro, I don't even know. Okay, I'm just gonna go inside. And me being totally annoyed and super upset, I ended up going inside my detention and sat down. When I sat down, I ended up seeing her already in the classroom, luckily enough, and she ended up sitting down and just marking grades on other people's homework while I just sat there doing absolutely nothing. And I remember I got so bored and just was bored of watching her grade tests to the point where I ended up pulling out my phone. And when I pull out my phone, well, that's where everything just went kaboom. Because I remember when I pulled out my phone, my teacher ends up seeing it and walks up to me. And she walks up to me and says, "Give me your phone right now." What? Why? Baba, give me your phone. No, I'm not going to give you my phone. You don't have permission to take it. Baba, I'm the teacher. Yeah, and I'm the student. Okay? Just because you're hot doesn't mean you get to have whatever you want. At that moment, when I said that to her, oh my gosh. No joke, what she ended up doing was so awful because she ends up making me stand up and says, "Baba, you do realize what you just did, right?" "No, what did I do?" And that's when this teacher ends up putting her hand on my eggplant area and she squeezes it as hard as she can and she whispers inside my ear, "Baba, how do you feel now?" And at that moment, I couldn't tell if I was in pain or if I was getting bricked. And I remember I ended up saying with a small squeaky voice, I'm okay, is what I said. And then she ended up squeezing harder, saying, "Every time you think about making fun of a girl, just think of this moment. You understand?" Like this exact one. And then she ends up squeezing harder and she says, "Baba, control yourself." And that's when she ends up pushing me down back on the chair and she ends up kissing me. No joke. She literally just ends up making out with me. I have no idea why, but then afterwards she ends up pulling away from me and says, "Okay, I don't want to get you too excited, but Baba, seriously, control yourself. But you can go now." At that moment, I just stood up, got my backpack, and left the classroom. And my jaw was to the floor. No joke. I could not understand what in the world just happened in there. But I gotta say one thing, it definitely wasn't legal. For my teacher to grab my eggplant and squeeze as hard as possible was mind-numbingly crazy. When I got home from school that day, I ended up hopping on my Xbox and I ended up playing Call of Duty with my buddy. And when I was on Xbox talking to him, I remember he says the funniest thing where he said, "Well, Baba, did you learn anything from detention?" "Yeah." "Well, that's a good thing you learned something. Maybe next time you won't do what you did." "Definitely not. Unless the teacher's really, really hot." "Wait, what?" And at that moment, I just started laughing. I don't think I ever told this story to anyone, honestly, and I wanted to keep it that way, but at the same time, since I'm out of high school and like I'm a lot older now, I thought it'd be okay. But honestly, if you guys don't believe this story is real whatsoever, then just follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.